Om. Ten Commandments, the Principles of Arya Samaj, Part 22. The seventh principle, the duty of love. Section C, Vegetarianism. The Arya Samaj prohibits meat diet as this is the temptation which is today the main incentive to kill animals. That vegetables promote health and vigor better, are more conducive to the formation of human morals, and tend to sharpen the powers of mind, while pious people in all communities engaged in esoteric exercises are found to refrain for spiritual reasons from the consumption of all sorts of meat, are additional advantages of strict vegetarianism, showing by the irrefragable testimony of actual experience that animals are not by nature meant for food. No economic reason can justify the eating of meat, for it is not the economically needy but the monetarily rich and the morally voluptuous and self-indulgent that have on their table variously cooked viands, mutton and beef and pork and eggs and fish, etc., etc. If the problem were at all economical, the well-to-do would confine themselves to vegetable diet, leaving meat which they say is cheap for the poor. Among villagers, who naturally are, from the pecuniary point of view, the poorest class, we find very little consumption of meat. Even communities that have no religious scruple against eating meat do not find frequent opportunities of getting it. For the poor, meat is a luxury. The rich have made it necessary for their lives. Authorities on economics too are agreed that all things considered, meat is a more expensive food than vegetable. The duty of self-defense. Here too, the Arya Samaj qualifies its insistence on love, laying pressure side by side with it on the desirability of adapting this golden sentiment to circumstances. Not absolute love, but love with an eye to propriety amidst existing conditions is the Arya Samajic motto. Animals that are harmful to human safety may be killed or removed without a hitch. It is the duty of the Kshatriya to remedy the danger if it has come to haunt the habitations of men. Even the Vaishya is exhorted in the Atharva Veda to ward off the attack of animals that beset his path in trade enterprises. The use of violence in self-defense is no sin, no moral or legal crime. This salubrious rule may be applied indiscriminately whether the enemy be man or animal. Naturalists tell us animals in their natural state exhibit no hostility to man. In the personal experience of the present writer, there are instances of courageous men having crossed the path of a lion, walking hither and thither without disturbing his or their mental presence. Wild beasts become furious when either they are disturbed or by previous disturbance they have become habituated to fierceness in sight of man. Wanton tyranny should under the all circumstances be avoided. Much will depend on the spiritual eminence which the man or woman concerned in such conduct has achieved. In the presence of a yogi, even natural enemies such as dog and cat, snake and mongoose, lion and lamb, etc., etc., have been found to give up their inimical instinct. On the yogi, therefore, absolute non-violence is enjoined. For the ordinary man, the rule is laxated. Sin attaches to such conduct alone as is actuated by deliberate or wanton cruelty. On this point too, the ultimate authority is to be the Veda. Wherefore, the provision in this principle that love wedded to propriety should confirm itself in the last resort to dharma, that is, the injunctions of the Vedas. For every man to decide at the instant what it would be normally proper to do in the face of mortal danger would be extremely difficult. The least hesitancy or even a most momentary state of dilemma may endanger life. It is for the reason that training in the atmosphere of the Veda so that Vedic principles of life should become a part and parcel of the student's mentality. The motive force of his instinct is laid abundant stress on. Of this more under the next principle. An important note regarding flesh food. Flesh food contains the unexcreted waste matter of the slaughtered animal. When the process of metabolism is suddenly arrested by death, the effete and decomposing cells and partly oxidized waste products, which are normally in the blood and muscle tissue, are left in the flesh. Moreover, while excretion and circulation are stopped immediately upon the death of animal, the muscle cells live for some hours at least until the animal warmth has left the flesh. These cells living after the death of the animal continue to produce animal poisons, and as there is no circulation to carry them off, they accumulate in much larger percentage than in the normal live muscle cell. Sun cooked food, page 164. Carnivorous animals are especially provided with an excretory system capable of taking care of such matter, but it is unreasonable to expect the excretory organs of man, which are not adapted to such a purpose, to throw off, in addition to their own waste matter, similar decomposing products of other animals. Ibid, page 165. Vegetable fats, which are of a liquid nature, are more desirable where we wish to add fatty tissue to the body than those of animal origin. Ibid, page 168. The most dangerous form of disease contamination from flesh food is that of trichinosis. Tapeworms have similar origin. There are several species, some being derived from pork and some from beef. Tuberculosis is the most prevalent disease among animals, especially cattle. Ibid, page 170. A pound of breakfast contains 14 grains of uric acid. A pound of liver contains 19 grains of uric acid. A pound of the sweet bread, pancreas used as food, contains 70 grains of uric acid. Vegetables promote health and vigor better, are more conducive to the formation of human morals, and tend to sharpen the powers of mind, while pious people in all communities engaged in ascetic exercises are found to refrain for spiritual reasons from the consumption of all sorts of meat, are additional advantages of strict vegetarianism, showing by the irrefragable testimony of actual experience that animals are not by nature meant for food. The following list of the maladies due to uric acid is copied from Dr. Haig's great work entitled Uric Acid and Causation of Disease, Gout, Rheumatism, Headache, Epilepsy, Convulsion, Chorea, Hysteria, Neurasthenia, Nervousness, Mental Depression, Lethargy, Vertigo, Syncope, Insomnia, Paralysis, Asthma, Dyspepsia, Congestion of liver, Glyceria, Diabetes, Bright's disease, Albuminuria, Dropsy, Gravel, and calculus, neuritis, cerebral and spinal degeneration, local inflammations of all kinds, appendicitis. The testimony of science is in favor of natural and human diet by Sidney Bird, page 13. I have never yet seen a case of appendicitis in a child who had never eaten meat. We can affirm almost with certainty that a vegetarian never contracts this malady. The cause of appendicitis is therefore flesh eating. Ibid, page 15. So convinced am I of the value of diet largely composed of uncooked vegetables and fruits, nuts of course being included, that I have no hesitation in proclaiming that if a liberal supply of uncooked vegetables and fruits were included in our dietary, cancer would soon become a matter of history only. Ibid, page 17. A series of experiments were made at Yale University by Professor Irving Fisher in 1906 and 1907 to test the relative endurance of flesh eaters and flesh abstainers. 49 subjects were used, the flesh eating ones being athletes, and much care was used to obtain exact evidence with the following results. In the contest of holding the arm extended, the maximum limit of the flesh eaters, 22 minutes, was barely more than half the average of the abstainers, one of whom held out for 160 minutes, another 176, and yet another 200 minutes. In deep bending of the knee, the average of the flesh eaters was 383 times and that of the abstainers 731 times. Ibid, page 31-32. If I am asked, did these people who gave up eating meat lose tone or become weaker? My answer would be that in the majority of cases, they confidently stated that they found themselves stronger and more powerful in body and clearer and more vigorous in mind. Josiah Oldfield, DCINRCS LRCS, Senior Physician of Lady Margaret Fruitarian Hospital, Bromley, in Herald of the Golden Age, October 1902. To sum up all evidence of this point, it seems to me to show that with a non-carnivorous diet, intelligently and temperately followed, the immunity from and power of resistance to all diseased conditions are immensely increased, while the flesh eater almost certainly becomes sooner or later the subject of degenerative changes directly due to his diet. Robert Perks, MPFRCS, in Herald of the Golden Age. For the relief of this depression of the digestive system caused by the accumulation of uric acid, a result of taking flesh diet, more meat must be taken, and when meat begins to fail in causing sufficient stimulation, alcohol is added. When alcohol begins to fail, morphine or cocaine are called in, and so on down the road to ruin. Now, vegetarianism cuts through the vicious circle at one blow by making it impossible for there ever again to be any great excess of uric acid in the blood, and as removing the cause of the depression which leads to the craving for stimulants. Concerning human carnivorism, page 67. The deepest, truest, and most general causes of prostitution in all great cities must be looked for in the luxurious and intemperate habits of eating and drinking prevalent among the rich and well-to-do. Perfect Way in Diet by Anna Kingsford, MD, page 59. Is it morally lawful for cultivated and refined person to impose upon a whole class of the population a disgusting, brutalizing, and unwholesome occupation which is scientifically and experimentally demonstrated to be not merely entirely needless but absolutely inimical to the best interests of the human race? Ibid, page 61. The life of an ox from the pasture to the butcher's shop will not bear telling. One night on a cattle steamer would be enough for most of us. The table brutalizes and degrades a multitude of men whom society employs and shuns. To the craftsman, the tiller, the market dealer, and any intelligence and virtue is possible. One might live in a worse place than Covent Garden, and the booksellers do not seem out of place there, nor children in the way of much moral hurt, but the meat market. Ibid, page 70. It is certainly not difficult to understand that the stimulation and irritation produced in nervous centers by the constant ingestion of highly nitrogenized and exciting meat influences the gentle functions and in a powerful degree and sets up a condition of pressing instability. Perfect Vein in Diet by Anna Kingsford, MD, page 58. And the well-known statistician Mr. W. Hoyle stated before the Manchester Statistical Society that a shilling worth of flour or oatmeal or fruit or selected vegetables would give as much nourishment as 5 shillings worth of flesh. Concerning human carnivorism, page 47. If men feed wholly on beef, then 4, 5, or even 7 acres for the cattle would not go so far in giving food to men as a single acre devoted to feed us by its vegetable crops. Moreover, in a region given over a grazing, a small rustic population suffices to tend the cattle. Hence, the rural acres are emptied of men who are constantly driven out of the country into the town. This is a grave national evil. Francis William Newman, in his Essays on Diet, page 129. Continued.